Hello. Just wait for a few people to arrive. Kiko's staring at me. She's lying on the bed. Keeks, come in here. Come on. Here she comes. Good girl. Yeah, hope everyone's well. I feel a lot better this time. I don't know if anyone remembers, but the last time I did one of these things, I did not feel very well, but I managed to get through it. I just have these little periods right at the start of the hay fever season and an allergy season when the tree pollen first happens, and it just takes me a while to get over it, and I'm fine now. Hi Patrick and hi Minty. This is the only time I'll be in real time in the chat. It is difficult to maintain that. I've seen people do these live streams and Twitch and stuff before, and they try and keep in real time, but I think I'd rather just try and answer any comments and questions as well as I can and then catch up at the end. Hi Layla, hope you're well. Hi Truth Will Out. Yeah, so I'll wait until a few people arrive until I share some more things. So hi to Christopher Hawk. Hi to Yolda. Hi Chris, hope you're all mate. Yeah, I'm pretty good now. Okay, see I've got a red spot on my head. So I banged my head on a door handle. And then when I was cutting my hair, sadly, I don't go to the hairdresser anymore. I opened the cut up and it bled a lot today. So if anyone notices, I just thought I'd mention that in case anyone notices I've got a red spot on my head. It's a cut. But otherwise, I'm very well. I'm a lot better than I was last time. Hello to Faye. Good evening. Hi to Anastasia, whoever that is. Hello to Douglas. And hello to Joanna. Cannot wait for the live stream when Lucy's released. Well, that will be a big deal, obviously. We don't know how long that's going to take. But yeah, it will be a really strange. Having spent so long thinking about this, it will be a really strange experience, won't it? When it's over, it'll be a relief, I'm sure. I mean, I have thought about it a little bit. Hi to John Kinsler. Hi to Bernie. Hi to Tony. Hi to Reflective. Hi to Kaza from Sydney. Hi to DI-MX. Good evening. Thank you very much for great information and keeping us updated all the time. Hope, it's my pleasure as always. Hi to Claire, who says hi to Chris and Kiko. Kiko's just waddling around down here. Hi to House of Dragon. Why aren't the media making more of the Hindmarsh revelations? It seems very significant to me. Well, the thing is that often with the media and often with the press, if one newspaper breaks something, the others don't really want to report it because unless it's something earth-shattering that they can't ignore, it's not really their story. So the Daily Telegraph will be very much aware of the Hindmarsh revelations, but Sarah Napton's been doing all the coverage. So she's not going to write on Hindmarsh when it's the Guardian story. It feels like something that talk stations could have spoken about, but you know, they're not all as focused on this as we are. So I guess we just have to give people a little bit of slack. In terms of its significance, it is very significant. I mean, I was saying, I don't know if I can't remember if I've released this video or just recorded it, but I was either saying in a video I've released or recorded that it's incredible when you think about it that the four primary experts from this case are Evans, Bohin, Hindmarsh, and Ward Platt, who'd already presided over 2 miscarriages of justice related to murder. It's incredible and that says so much about the system, doesn't it? Because it's not just the fact they were selected; it's the fact. I say this about the court cases as well. It's the fact that no one bats an eyelid. like we you know, read out and we go over all these surreal occurrences in court, and it's not just the fact that they happen; it's the fact there's no objection, no one seems bothered, the judge doesn't seem bothered. Um, you know, so this must be happening all the time. And again, we've had an extraordinary raft of expert witnesses in this case, and yet, you know, that just it's not just like it's one. It's not just like it's one aberration. It's like four. As Evans is just this extraordinary character. Bohin who's basically gone into hiding. Hindmarsh, who we know about, and Ward Platt, who presided over previous miscarriages of justice. So it's incredible, but obviously it's becoming clearer and clearer to me the more that I learn about this, that I need to, you know, there'll be a requirement on me to do this for a long time to come. I'll definitely be working this field. You know, I'm sure I'll write more books in the future. And it's clear that there's a lot to heal and a lot to mend, and I don't really expect that to happen in my lifetime. I don't think I'll be on the planet long enough for it to all be sorted out, knowing how slowly things move. I've done a bit in a recent video, a forthcoming video, about how little the system has changed. So I think people will find that interesting. And if you just go back, you can see in the media exactly the same things being said at the turn of the century. And I'm sure if you went back further, it would be the same thing before that. But you know, what can you do? All we can do is try and continue to expose the problems, I suppose. Hi, Chris. Simple question. Do you think Lucy Letby will be given good news this year, or do you think this miscarriage of justice could drag out longer? So I suppose that I should say firstly that my view is no more informed than anyone else's. I don't have any inside information. Even Lucy's barrister doesn't have inside information. So the kind of steer that I've been given was that it's likely that the CCRC would refer the case this year, but I couldn't say that with any confidence. In terms of it being released, that's not going to happen. It will take quite a while, even if it's referred this year. But I hope it will be referred this year. I think that when there's no reason not to, everything has been done. The privilege has been waived. That probably should have happened sooner, but it's happened now. It really shouldn't take that long to see that this is a potentially unsafe conviction, but we'll see how long it takes. I really couldn't say with certainty, but let's just hope that we hear something this year. Hi to David. Hi to John. Evening, Chris and Kiko. Claire says, hope everyone is well tonight. Thank you, Claire. Kiko's just looking at me and sulking like usual. Come here. Hi to John. Is spurning an offer to be interviewed as a multiple murder suspect by the police a police world first? So, I mean, I think what the police have done in this so-called investigation, it is extraordinary, but I don't know. I don't know how rare it is, because usually they don't come under the microscope to this extent. So I think it's perfectly feasible that they've done similar things previously, and I do increasingly believe that the police just got too excited about doing a big case, and they got carried away. What other possible explanation could there be for the fact that they've ignored all relevant, valid, and well documented policy and procedure? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think the obvious explanation for that would be that they got too excited. They just thought, oh my God, a massive murder case in our little police station. And they got carried away and confirmation bias took over, and they didn't do I've always said they didn't do the due diligence, but I didn't realize how bad it was. I mean, Dr. Steve Watts has shared so much stuff with me. You know, and I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know anything about the police, really, not on that kind of level. And it's very difficult to think of any conceivable or defensible reason why they didn't investigate properly and why they didn't follow their own protocol. Basic protocol and procedure they should have followed, they just didn't. It's very difficult to give a good explanation for that. And that kind of suggests to me that it probably happens more often than you think. But I don't know for sure. Phil Hammond did a piece in Private Eye about Hindmarsh, so I haven't read that yet, but I've got it. Someone sent it to me, so it is significant. It's something again that wasn't disclosed to the court yet again, and they had the opportunity to do so because he knew about it, and the police knew about it, and they just didn't disclose it. Now, whether it had made a difference or not, I don't know. But it's certainly relevant now. I think so many things that have come out are helpful to Lucy now, and they, in a way, it's good they didn't come out at the time because she could have lost the court case anyway once it had gone to court, and then, then it could have been said, well, the court's already heard this, the court's already heard that, this expert's already said this. Bad for Lucy at the time, but now it can be used in the Court of Appeal or in the appeals process. That might be to her benefit, ironically, that these things didn't come out. Should the whole episode not be always titled the Chester Neonatal Unit Disaster? I think that it clearly is a disaster for neonatal unit, but the thing is, every system failed. It's not just the neonatal unit and the consultants. It then gets past the police, they fail. The expert witnesses, let's be generous and say that they fail. The Crown Prosecution Service fails. It doesn't even go to the national body of the Crown Prosecution Service. The court processes, from their perspective, they don't think that they failed, do they? But I think any kind of dispassionate assessment of the court process would say that it's very, very poor. So, yeah, it definitely is a disaster, and definitely the neonatal unit is central to that. But I think it's not just the neonatal unit. It's just a series of systemic failings that were so many of which were avoidable. Hello to Stuart. Hello to Ruth. Hello to Anastasia. Hello to Lynn. Hello to Vivian. Agreed evidence is entered on the basis of trust between court officers, and this is proved to be deceitful. What should happen next? So with regard to this, I don't know how. So this is referencing the shift chart, but I don't know how in the closing statement Johnson says Lucy Letby was caught red-handed. I mean, that part is surreal because he says Lucy Letby was caught red-handed by the parents, but they didn't realize what they were witnessing. I mean, have you ever heard anything more ridiculous in all your life? Supposedly, Lucy Letby is supposed to be harming an infant with a tool. So, I mean, it's a fact that they didn't catch her red-handed. We know they didn't. I mean, obviously it didn't happen, so it's impossible to catch her red-handed, but it's agreed evidence that they didn't catch her red-handed. So how and why Johnson is allowed to say that, firstly, and how no one intervenes, and how a judge can just allow that to be said when he knows what the agreed evidence is, or he should do. I've no idea. So, I mean, you have this agreed evidence, but if the barristers are just going to say whatever they want anyway, then I don't know. I don't understand the court system. To me, it's I can see myself sitting there as a 14-year-old, as I did at school all the time. I'd be sitting there at school, like rolling my eyes at things that were happening and that we were doing, and I could see this court case being enacted before me, and the 14-year-old me going, I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. What pajamas and like what on earth are we talking about? So I just don't understand it. I can't. It's incredible that the whole thing is just about winning, obviously, and they're just willing to do anything. And they obviously must know. They're not stupid people. They obviously must know that some of the things they're saying have no intellectual or evidential merit, but they still say them because they think, well, this is a way to manipulate the jury, or the jury can be convinced by this. So I don't know. I don't know about the agreed evidence. All I know is that Nick Johnson says Child E's mother caught Lucy Letby red-handed, even though that goes against the agreed evidence. I mean, that directly contradicts the agreed evidence. The shift chart, you can argue it's not deceitful. You can argue it's just scientifically poor. Or you can argue it's deceitful. But I mean, that's more debatable. But given that there was an outright lies told, who knows about the agreed evidence? I haven't got a clue. I don't even begin to understand it. Hi to Melanistic Marble. Hi to Lil Unicorn. Hi to Kazos in Australia. Is the interest in the case increased in the UK? Yeah, definitely. What you have to remember as well is, though, it's not like it's not an enduring thing where people are obsessed with it all the time. It peaks and troughs. I mean, my numbers went up massively, and then they've gone back down to a mean level now, which is what you expect. And that's partly due to YouTube and the way YouTube works, which I won't go into at this point. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of interest. If you see, I mean, the first part of Guy's film Botched got 62,000, and if something catches fire on YouTube, it will still get tens of thousands or sometimes hundreds of thousands of views. And then the Facebook group has quadrupled in the number of members since Netflix. And my subscribers went up nearly 50%, I think. So yeah, I think the interest in the case and awareness is definitely increasing. But then, people go back to their lives, and that's normal. And that's, part of the reason why I've written the book is to try and help raise awareness again. And then I want to try and make it international as well. Hello to Jenny, hope you're well. Is Operation Duet examining the inaccessible drain equipment and air cons now that they are accessible during demolition? So I know this is something Jenny has raised as well. The first thing I'll say is it's impossible to get information out of the hospital. So the hospital is like Fort Knox, and you can't talk to anyone, and everyone's scared of scared of what might happen to them if they say something, I think, as well. And then, of course, it must be very, very difficult for people working in that hospital, particularly in maternity or neonatology. Can you imagine what it's like, knowing you're at this notorious hospital and, there's more and more stuff coming out every day and it's in the press? It must be very difficult. So I think there's very, very little chance that the drain equipment, air cons, etc., will be examined, because it's not in the hospital's interest ultimately, and they control these things pretty much. So I think it's very difficult for us to gain any access to that. So this type of thing, I don't think will be examined now. Hi to John T. Christopher Hawke says, I don't think we should be accepting of the CCRC excuses. It has one purpose. Well, I agree. I do agree to a very great extent. It is reasonable for them to point out that there was a delay in the waiving of privilege. That's not an unreasonable thing for them to point out. With that being said, it should take weeks from now. They've had 4 months, I believe, now. Is it 4 months or is it 5 months? This should be referred this year, no doubt. It's very obvious that, I mean, obviously, I think it's overwhelming evidence that there's a miscarriage of justice here, but, you couldn't possibly claim that there isn't enough evidence for this to be a possibly unsafe conviction, could you? So it should be referred as soon as possible. So broadly speaking, I agree with you. But I do think they're entitled to point out that there was a bit of a delay in waiving privilege. And, it's not, I don't wish to be critical of that, because I know nothing about the legal profession or being a barrister or a solicitor. But I do think it should have been waived sooner. But I'm not privy to why that happened, and neither is anyone else. Did you read the Liz I was at the trial Hull's piece about her new KC? I didn't read it properly because it's not worth reading properly. I skim read it to see what she was saying. Yeah, just I think what we can't expect anything else from her at this point. She's heavily invested. I mean, I have my own theories about why she continues to do this, but it doesn't really matter. She's in a minority of one now, pretty much. Not quite, but and she's just it wasn't a good article, but it's interesting to know that they've had this KC who looks very accomplished. Now, whether he would be presenting in the Court of Appeal, I don't know, but it's just for this coronial process that seems deeply inappropriate, frankly. To be fair, Private Eye have exclusively focused on High Mars this week. So they are the kind of publication that can do it because they're not a newspaper and they're not a news publication. So a newspaper in particular will always look at a story and say, is this news? And sometimes they'll do long pieces that are analytical. But generally, if they're going to do a short story, it needs to be news. That's where the New Yorker would differ because they can do really long form journalism. I think it's a bit of a shame there isn't a publication like the New Yorker in this country. I can't think of an obvious example. And I don't think that article would have been published in that form in this country because typically it's very difficult to devote 13,000 words to one article. It doesn't often happen. But Private Eye can do that. They've devoted 35 columns to it so far. So I'm really grateful that they exist and they've done, Philip Hammer's done an excellent job, no doubt. Hi to Zaina Councils. Hi to Paul. Might have come in late, but was it not obvious that she was innocent as soon as the media got involved and brainwashed everyone? Even had to make a documentary about it. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. When I mean, it was from the time that I investigated the issue. It was pretty obvious to me, but I don't really know what the media reporting was like of the trial. Obviously, I've looked back at it now, but I can only look back at it in retrospect because I didn't follow the trial. So I don't know. I couldn't really say. Hi to Pascal from France. Hi to Denise. Hi to House of Dragon. If you've been listening to the Amanda Knox podcast, very good. 2 years of research was done before starting the podcast, apparently. Yeah, it is well done. Very high production values. It seems like it'll be a good thing for people in America that don't know much about the case. And I guess we've learned bits and pieces from it. But it's just good to see a high quality production from the United States that will be broadcast over there to people that don't know as much about the case as is the case over here. Hi to Thomas, hope you're well. Hi to Glennis. Agreed the police got carried away. Had they implemented the multidisciplinary panel as per the police framework and not been seduced by Dr. Evans, we would not be talking about this now. Yeah, hard to disagree. Just bear with me a second. I just need to look at something. Just bear with me. Sorry about this. Yeah, no problem. I'll just go back to where I was. Sorry, I just had to ban someone. I don't know that they necessarily know if they're a bad person, but they were saying things that we can't allow. So what was the question? Sorry. It's about Amanda Knox, wasn't it? Oh no, sorry, I was on the police one. So apologies. The multidisciplinary panel, The only thing I will say is that given the standard of expert witnesses, we can't even guarantee that that would have overturned the case. It's possible and maybe even probable that it would, but I don't think we can say that definitively. But it does seem very likely, and regardless of that, they should have put multidisciplinary panel together. I just think that I don't know. I think it's scary that. So I'm going to have a guest on soon that's going to discuss more about the court system, who's a very informed person and a very knowledgeable person and a very experienced person. And this person told me a lot of stuff. I haven't recorded the interview yet. I did a pre-recording interview with this person just to speak with her for the first time. And we sort of arranged the questions and so forth. And I find out what she might want to talk about. And even that, I just thought, I mean, it's just awful. So I don't know what the actual interview is going to be like, but I mean, I just don't have any faith in the system at all. Even if you do get a multidisciplinary panel in there, there's so many people that have been put away, and so many people have had their children taken off them on rather dubious evidence, to say the least. So I don't know. Having more people, more doctors, and more medics may have helped, and it hopefully it would have nipped this in the bud. But I don't know. I could say that with 100% confidence, given what's happened elsewhere. But of course, it's far more dangerous when you just have one person, because then they can do the whole thing, as we know. Why do due diligence when they had Brewer and J-Ram? They couldn't possibly be lying, could they? And the police will blame them. Well, I think they. I mean, the only explanation I can give is they got carried away, because they are supposed to follow their own policy and procedure. It's hard to understand why they didn't. I can't think of any other conceivable explanation than the fact that they just got too excited. Otherwise, they should follow their own protocol. I mean, there's just no reason not to do it. I'm amazed that it was permitted for some cherry-picked shift versus death chart to be produced in court without any proper analytical standards being required. How many miscarriages of justice have happened this way? So I don't know the answer to that question, but this is why the Royal Statistical Society have advised the court in the first place, and why they're still trying to advise the court system, because it's very possible that this could happen all over again. There's no at this point in time, there's no reason this can't happen all over again. The shift chart could be put in another case or similar evidence, and then that could be used as a kind of prejudicing factor over the jury. So until this is overturned, and until scientifically it's demonstrated that this shouldn't, if there's going to be a statistical study, and if there's going to be something that requires statistics to be used as evidence, then when that happens, it should be provided by a statistician, obviously. What do you think of the Jonathan Coffey and Judith Moritz book, particularly on their points on baby F, L, and O? Well, obviously, I have covered this previously, firstly. Secondly, I don't have the book in front of me, so it's difficult to respond to specific points. What I will say is the following. I've read the chapter on the insulin cases, and what they essentially do, like when you read my book, you will see I've quoted everyone directly. That's the first thing. There's many hundreds, maybe there could be over 1,000, and possibly there could even be several thousand quotes in this book. I don't know how many there are exactly. And there are, about, I'm not sure how many experts named, but a lot. I was going to say 30, but I think it's more than that. And these are just the ones I've interviewed. There are many experts on top of that I'm citing as well. And you hear directly from these people, and you hear their direct view, and you hear it's all transparent. In that book, Judith Moritz engages in this kind of strange commentary, and then she says, I said this to someone and someone said this. Then I said this to someone and someone said that. And she never names anyone and she never quotes anyone. So I find that rather unsatisfactory. In terms of Child O, she's just plain wrong. So, people that have seen the notes know what's happened. There's absolutely no doubt that what was said in court with regard to Child O is complete rubbish. But also with regard to the insulin infants, there are very clear indicators of naturally occurring hypoglycemia in the case of Child F. But I always find it a little bit difficult to talk about the insulin cases because there's a lot of stuff that I can't talk about because it's in the I'm sort of a little bit privy to because it's in the defense and I can't really talk about it. So they don't have the full story, and I think the way that they've done it, my assessment of the book would be that they want, particularly Judith, wants to still be able to say that Lucy Letby is guilty, but she realizes that she has to try and seem more balanced because she's put a line in that she's made a line in the sand and said she's always been pro-guilt as far as I can see, and therefore she wants to stick to that position. Plus, she's a BBC journalist, and you're not allowed to go against the system, really. And until something is officially announced as being the case, you're not allowed to go against it, or it's very, very difficult to go against it and getting increasingly more difficult. So, yeah, I think I've said enough about that book. I don't think it's the fairest or most objective book, but obviously they did update it and they did try to be fairer than the first book. Although acquitted, Von Dellen is maybe not the best choice. Well, the thing is, anyone can be accused of anything. In every other respect, this guy is ideal, but the coronial process shouldn't be being updated anyway. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I'm not sure what I think about that process. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. I don't want to make any predictions about it. We'll just have to wait and see. It looks increasingly likely Lucy's conviction was a result of a stitch-up down to a general glut of mistakes and failures in the neonatal unit being covered up, the system covered up for itself. That's possible. There's always a difference in opinion on this, or there can be a difference in opinion. I think it's quite possible that the consultants were genuinely concerned about a few deaths, and it's true that they should have investigated the unit better and they should have investigated their own part in this more objectively. But I'm not sure that they didn't believe. I think it's possible that they genuinely believed that what they were doing was legitimate. And I can't prove otherwise, but I can absolutely see why you have that view, and you can very, very much be correct. Absolutely. Hi Chris, have you seen the excellent recent interview with Dr. Svelena Dimitrova on the True Criminals podcast? Yes, I have. I've seen both parts. Yeah, it's very good, very powerful. I commented on one of them. I think maybe a few people will have seen my comment. But yeah, it was very powerful, and it made it very clear why she's got involved, and why there are so many experts that are involved. Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing the live stream. Appreciate that. Thank goodness for people like her and you putting in so much effort for justice. Yeah. That's appreciated. I just felt that, I probably explained why in the past I decided to do this, but I just felt I could, and I felt therefore I should. And I think for Svelena, it's probably I don't want to speak for her, but it's probably slightly different because she will care very deeply about patient safety and patient care in the NHS. Not that I don't care about that, but of course I can't possibly have the same appreciation of it that she does. And that is very, very important. But when I started out, I didn't, I was just purely, this is a miscarriage of justice. All these side issues that actually are central issues have kind of loomed into view as it's continued. So for me, I always felt that I had to do something because I could, and I was very passionate about it, and I just felt this would be the right thing for me to do. And obviously, it's going to change my life. So there's no turning back now. I would say that more people believe Lucy's innocent since the Netflix film came out. But after that, I would say the MSN has gone a bit quiet again. Yeah, that's a fair assessment. But the thing is, as I say, this is of massive importance to us that the news media can't just cover it because they care about it. I know there are a lot of people in the press that do care about this issue and that will continue to work on it and will try to uncover new things. But they can't just say, they are newspapers and they have to cover news stories, and they can't just say, oh, by the way, just to remind you, Lucy Letby's case is a bit of a cock up, isn't it? They're always looking for new angles and new things. So I would just mention that briefly, but this will always be headline news because it's a massive story. And whenever there isn't a new story, it tends to go straight to number one on the newspaper website. So I don't think people have forgotten about it or lost interest, or it's just one of those things, I think. In the Unmasking Lucy Letby book by Morris and Coffey, they say that breathing tube dislodging, so they were completely wrong about that. Really, they should have been able to see through that. That was just stupid, frankly. But I don't want to talk about that book anymore. I've talked about it enough now. Does it go all the way up to the judge? They must have known and read between the lines, surely. I think the judge was just a bit complacent. The judge has sat in a lot of court cases, for starters. So they all believe in the system. They have an intrinsic, inherent bias towards the system. They believe the system is legitimate. The system is their bread and butter. I mean, the top judges and the top barristers are wealthy. They are wealthy, and they will have, quite. They obviously work very hard, but they have quite a privileged life materially compared to most people, and they have the legal profession and the legal system to thank for that. So not many of them are going to say, hey, this system's terrible. Why don't we? They're just not going to do that because they're biting the hand that feeds them and the hand that's fed them very well. So, it's quite easy for us to look at the judge and say, why has the judge done this and why has the judge done that? But the judge believes in the system and thinks that it works. Broadly speaking, they believe the system works. So I don't believe that now that I've examined this case and now that I've learned more about it and now that I've spoken to various people. But if you're immersed in it every day and it's been your career, then you might feel very differently about it. So I think the judge is more complacent than anything else. That's just my view, of course. Baby A's mother having bona fide time saying she has seen Letby on shift in the nursery. She rang her husband at that time. How do defendants of Lucy, her lawyers, contradict that? I don't know what you're referring to. You'll have to explain that again. It's not really an item of any significance because Baby A was declining before Lucy Letby had any contact with the infant. I mean, Baby A is just a declining infant that's deteriorating due to the state of the mother and the state of the infant. In fact, it's a twin, etc. So really, this kind of gossipy stuff they have in court about, oh, Lucy came into this room, this happened, this person came in, the parent said this, the parent said that. It's all a load of rubbish, basically. But if you want to clarify what you're referring to, then I can possibly expand on that. But basically, all of the court case where they're saying this person came to this room, this person came to that room, this person saw this person saw that, it's all just total crap for numerous reasons. For starters, the swipe chart data is all wrong. So for most instances, that's the case. They had so much eyewitness testimony, but they all concede that they never saw anyone doing anything wrong. I know what you're referring to. I didn't think that was for child A, but maybe it is. But I think there's this. I assume you're referring to this case where there's this discrepancy. I thought that was Child E, to be honest. So I'll wait to see if you update me on this. But I thought that was Child E, unless you're referring to something else. But it's all just emotive testimony. I mean, the parents, they're hardly going to be the most reliable witnesses because, firstly, they'll be very emotional. Secondly, this all happened years ago by the time of the court case. Thirdly, they don't know anything about medical matters whatsoever. So, and then fourthly, they've been prompted by the police. So, this kind of evidence really, in my view, shouldn't even be in the court case at all. You know, that's all I can say. But if you want to update me on what you actually mean, then I'm happy to look at it. But I mean, for me, that part of the court case is just nonsense, baloney, as they say in America. Has a nurse ever won a grievance against consultants in the history of the NHS? So I haven't been able to find an example of this. And certainly everyone that I've spoken to said it's incredibly unusual as well. Particularly, remember, it's 7 consultants. For one nurse to win a grievance against 7 consultants is very unlikely. So it does speak volumes in and of itself, I think. I think an honorary doctorate for Shuley from Cardiff University would really be devastating for Dowie. Yeah, that would be annoying for him. The thing is, he's already got a doctorate, so it's not like David Beckham getting a doctorate, an honorary degree or something. He has already got doctorates, so. Hi to Mark, good to see you. Hope you're well. Is it possible that because so much is at stake and that admitting to the case being unsafe would discredit the entire justice system, that they will decide to stay mum? It's not inconceivable. I mean, this must be a concern that the fallout from this is going to be so enormous that the system will just try to keep her in prison. I know no one wants to hear that, but it's not inconceivable. I'm hopeful that there'd be enough public pressure that they can't do that, because that would that's basically the battle. Is on the one hand, if you exonerate Lucy, it discredits the system, but we need to create a situation where not exonerating her would discredit the system more, basically, in my opinion. Mr. GMAX says, "Hi Chris, huge respect for what you're doing. Would love to know how you deal with the abuse from the other side. Legend. Thank you very much." I don't care. They can say whatever they want. I'm just not interested. I'm flattered that I'm so important to them. They're not important to me. So I just find it funny. I find it hilarious that someone will take time out of their day to say stuff to me or about me. I just find it very amusing. There are doctors and nurses in the chat today. I've spoken to dozens of doctors and nurses. I've spoken to dozens of other doctors, professors, and nurses. I've got people emailing me all the time. I'm in constant contact with these people. I'm in contact with other people that I've not mentioned publicly. So, really some kind of social degenerates on the internet who can't even use their real names because they're too scared. They can say whatever they want. Let's go a bit further down. I'd have left that hospital after this, and I wouldn't trust Brewery as far as I could throw him. So I know someone posted one of the Facebook groups the other day, a very passionate, a very well argued post saying that people shouldn't say Lucy should have taken constructive dismissal because, walk a mile in her shoes and you'll find out how she felt. And that was a very fair point, and I don't disagree at all. When I said that, I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just wish she'd done that. I wish she'd done that because I think she would have been I'm certain she'd have been much better off than she is now. Basically certain. I don't mean it disrespectfully to say that, but I do feel I need to be honest and say that if someone accused me of what they accused her of, I would never go back into that workplace. I just wouldn't, because you can't mend that. You can't put sticking plaster over that wound. The wound is too big. You've got to extract the limb. Unfortunately, at this point, there's just no way. There is just no way. But I don't say that as a criticism of Lucy. I just say it as something I wish she'd done. Do you think the New York excuse me? Do you think the New York article was totally accurate and briefed the experts it used fully? That's a criticism from Moritz and Coffee Book, who spoke to experts, who spoke to article writers. So I don't want to answer constant questions about their crap book, but I think it's a very unfair criticism, considering that the New Yorker article directly quotes experts, whereas the Moritz and Coffee chapter that I just mentioned doesn't directly quote anyone and doesn't mention a single person's name. So I think that's a very unfair criticism. I haven't read I've read the important parts of that book. I haven't read it, the whole thing, because I've already skimmed over the previous version, and this version has very little new material. So I think anyone who's being objective would agree that the standard of journalism in the New Yorker article is far higher than anything that Moritz and Coffee have produced. And if anyone wishes to contradict me on that, they're very welcome to do so. But I don't see how anyone could possibly claim otherwise. I'm not sure why people would want to be a nurse now. Basically, can and follow for anything that goes wrong. It is certainly. I think the answer to your question is people are passionate about it. People care about, infants, but also just generally caring for the sick and the vulnerable. And it is a very rewarding career. It's a very challenging career indeed. But I think that's basically your answer. It's like anything you go into. I guess you could say, why do you have a child when look how hard it is to look after a 1-year-old, and you have to go, if you're a mother, if a woman, you have to go through the childbirth, and you have to go through the pregnancy, and then your child, you don't know what's going to happen. You can even die during the childbirth, and then when the child comes out, children are problematic, and it's because people really, really want to have children. They're passionate about it, I suppose. I'm slightly different from being a nurse, of course, because this is a very intrinsic biological thing, but I think that's basically the answer. But you're right that the nurses are put now in very vulnerable circumstances. Let's go a little bit further down. I think you are an intelligent, amazing person. I've watched your videos for a few months and have gone from not being sure to 100% innocent. Thank goodness for people like you. Well, that's really nice to hear about your change in heart. I mean, I don't specifically set out with the intention of doing that. I just set out the facts and allow people to make up their own minds. But of course, it's very gratifying to hear that someone changed their mind because of my work. And I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that you're on board with this, because it's very important. And there is an innocent person in prison. I have no doubt of that. And there are enormous consequences for all these systems. And I won't stop until, as I say, I'll probably be doing this for years to come. Who knows what I'll be doing the rest of my life? But, as long as I have a voice and there's work to do, then I'll do it for sure. But thank you for the kind remarks. Very, very much appreciated. Let's go a bit further down. So people are talking about Mark's live stream. I didn't have time to watch that, unfortunately. Sorry, Mark. Life's pretty busy. I mean, I get sent so much stuff. I've just been sent, so I've set up some more interviews that are going to come. Hopefully some more interviews come in the next few weeks. The thing that set me back this month was getting ill with allergies. I wish I didn't have allergies, but I suppose worse things happen to people. But that's slowed me down from organizing interviews, but there'll be some more coming soon. But one of the interviewees that's going to be coming up hopefully next week, this person sent me like 3 massive PDFs, so that I need to read them so I understand the topic, or at least need to skim them. And she's like, "Do you want me to send you more?" I was like, "No," because I've already got Dr. Steve Watts sent me 6 manuals from the police, massive, and I get sent so much stuff, and then every day people say, "Have you watched this? Have you watched that?" So I try and keep up with everything as much as I can. But sometimes, I've really reached the point where I cannot just watch something unless I know this is going to have new information in it, or it's really, really important. I just don't have time to do anything else. Oh, that's something I wanted to mention. I meant to mention this at the start of the stream. So over the next few weeks, I was having a little bit of think about this. I need to make some content that is easier for me to make. So when I do those videos, like 150 problems, for example, they are very effective, I know, but they take ages to make because you've got to fish all the examples out of your brain, firstly. Then you've got, which, obviously I know the case quite well. That's the easiest part. Then you have to find all the references to them. Then you have to capture all the images, and then you have to tie it all together. The recording is the easiest part. The recording doesn't take very long, but preparing the video takes ages. And I've got a very important period coming up with my book now. So I really need to make simple content or content that's less time consuming. So for the next few weeks, I'm going to do interviews and also videos where I can just put a document on the screen and go through it and analyze it with you. Because they're so much easier to make because you don't have to make the visuals. The thing that makes, I think that's really annoying as well. My visuals are crap as well. I wish I could do because it takes ages to do the visuals, and then they're just documents. You probably think it takes no time at all, but it takes a really long time. That's by far it takes longer than doing the recording. So I need to do some videos where I can just put a document on the screen and go through it for the next few weeks until I've signed my book off in a few weeks, and then I might more than likely be going to record the audiobook. So I just want to make it clear that I'll be doing those, and the channel won't slow down, hopefully. That might be necessary as well, I'll see. But that would make it easier for me to just keep things up the way that they are. And there's so many documents I haven't been through. I always dip into things, then dip out, and then I'll end up doing some other stuff just to try and keep things interesting. But I'll just keep going. And but yeah, I just wanted to kind of make that clear. And there'll be interviews as well. I'll try and arrange interviews. Sometimes it's necessary to. So another thing I need to explain. When you arrange the interview, that takes time as well because you have to reach out to the person, then you have to speak with them, then you have to pre-interview, then you have to arrange the questions. So they're not. You might think they're quite quick to do again, but they're really not. So I definitely want to do more interviews over the next couple of months, but they'll be the kind of more time-consuming videos. Then I'll try and do some other ones that are less time-consuming but still interesting to watch. If anything, doesn't this case show that the whole system of experts is prone to malpractice for literally touting to give evidence based on an agreed view? Yes. It's hard for me to add anything to that because the answer is yes. What else can I say? I mean, the system is very vulnerable to exactly what you're describing. And we now know for a fact there are experts that are out there that are willing to do it. So put those two things together and it's pretty worrying. What do you think, if any, are weaknesses in Lucy Letby's defence case? Can you envisage her being found not guilty on the majority of cases, but still struggling to prove her innocence on a few charges? Good question. I think that there aren't any obvious weaknesses because of the quality and calibre of people that are defending her. I think, if anything, the possible weakness would be whether or not the Court of Appeal can understand the case and whether they want to understand the case. Can they understand that this isn't just one scientist says this, another scientist says that? This is just a guy who has put stuff in the court case that is total rubbish up against the world's leading experts who've done forensic work on the cases, and the caliber of their work is in a different class. That's not a weakness of the case, but it's a weakness of the system. In terms of whether she can be found not guilty on some, but bear in mind, she doesn't need to prove her innocence, as you put it. She needs to prove there's reasonable doubt. I can't see any cases where you could say there isn't reasonable doubt. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. It's very difficult to predict. I wouldn't like to say, but it's clear to me that she is innocent. It's clear to me that this is an unsafe conviction. It should be a relatively low percentage of doubt for a case such as this, and that the doubt is enormous, I guess the insulin cases would be a sticking point. But then one thing people need to understand about the insulin cases is these aren't murders, of course. So if all the murders were overturned and then the court said, right, we're going to keep her in prison because of attempted murder, having exonerated her of all the murders, that would look pretty ridiculous. So I think there will be a focus, yes, on the insulin cases, but also on overturning the murder cases, because once they've done that, the cases collapse basically, and there needs to be a retrial or a quashing of the cases. So strategically and legally, that is something to bear in mind. Hello to Matt. Good to see you here. So I just want to mention to Rob Lee, UK NHL, who asked me about the Newcastle game earlier. I assume he supports Newcastle, so sorry for what happened. They lost 7-2 to Barcelona, in case you don't know. But Barcelona are very, very good. They look good at the weekend, and I thought it would be a tough game for them. I didn't think they'd lose 7-2, but I didn't think they'd be able to keep the Barcelona attack out because they're too good. If you believe the prosecution, Rob says, Lucy was the best nurse in the unit. Only baby she murdered died when she was around. How ridiculous. Surely that should raise an eyebrow. Yeah, I mean, so many things that the prosecution said don't make any sense and are ridiculous. Hold on one second. There we go. Yes, so yeah, I absolutely agree with you. But the more we examine the court transcripts, the more we examine the court process, the more we see that it's just ridiculous. But this is all a consequence of the system. It's all a consequence of the fact that we have this adversarial system. They're just willing to say anything or do anything. And in a sense, if they don't do that, they're not doing their job. Their job is to prosecute, and that in order to prosecute, they must do whatever they can. So I definitely see that as a major problem. But I mean, I was reading an article the other day that I have featured in a forthcoming video, and that was written in 2001, and there's all these criticisms of the adversarial system then. I don't expect that to change in my lifetime, because it requires a really strong person or a really strong government to say enough is enough. We need to seriously look at this, and they'll never have the courage to do that, because it's a massive decision, and it's much easier for them to just say, we've got a system, the system is fine, blah, 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 and that's what they typically say. So I don't think there'll be an inquisitorial system in my lifetime, but at the very least, there needs to be some reform. Do you think that Dr. Evans secretly knows he is wrong, but is so invested and has been so unwavering in his stance that he can never admit it? I think somewhere in his consciousness, whether consciously or subconsciously, he must suspect that he may be wrong. I think his arrogance is such that he still overwhelmingly, or to a great extent, believes that he's correct. But it's very difficult to know for certain, because we can just never be sure. I mean, it's difficult to know because he says so many daft things. He seems to believe those things, but then sometimes they're just stupid arguments. And maybe sometimes he's just saying them to defend himself, and it's just a desperate attempt. So does he believe half the things that he says? I've highlighted this letter where he said the police and the prosecution mix the dates up. I mean, that's just categorically untrue. Does he believe that or not? Because previously, when he spoke to The Guardian, he said, I changed my mind because of statements made by the local doctors and nurses, which is what he actually said in court. So he's made two contradictory statements. Does he believe both of them? Does he believe one of them? Who knows? It's very difficult to know what he does believe and what he doesn't believe. But I feel there must be a point somewhere in his being where he thinks, you know what, these other doctors could be correct. But there is a small possibility that he's so arrogant that he's never even crossed his mind that he could possibly be wrong about anything. However, I tend to think he probably does have an inkling. So So there's a comment about the Cleveland child abuse scandal. So I don't know anything about this. So let's Google the Cleveland child abuse scandal. So there are no easy. A wave of suspected child sexual abuse cases in 1987 in Cleveland, not in America, in the northeast of England. I don't know much about this. So I can't really comment on that too much because I don't know anything about it. But yeah, an interesting scenario indeed. I saw an interview that dreadful doctor. He doesn't give a damn in what he said. It certainly does seem that way, Anastasia. It certainly does seem that way. Hi all, Peter Elston's latest video was great. Also interesting that he said more dirt to come out about some more prosecution experts. I think he mentioned Owen Arthur's Manarides and Elizabeth Morgan. Yeah, I can't talk about that. You may tell from my expression that I know a little bit about that. Next question. Can't remember surname, but think she was the nurse for the prosecution. Yeah, it's Elizabeth Morgan. Yeah. Just a few people asking for the nurse's name. It's Elizabeth Morgan. In answering no comment to a question already answered, better substitute by already stated. Yeah, good point. And you notice some of the, I don't know how much Lucy was briefed, but she didn't seem to do that. It's tough when you're in the witness box, isn't it? Very, very, very tough. I think she did well. And I know, was it Anna or was it Lulu who said, I think they both said she did well, but I think one of them said she was excellent. She's clearly an intelligent woman. I think she knew her job. She knew her job inside out. And she there's more in my book about when she was a student nurse and some of the background to what she was like on the unit. And, it was really interesting for me because I learned stuff that I didn't know. I wonder if Evans and Elston are still in contact by email. The emails I read between them were mind-blowing. One day I must work on that. I haven't done that yet because Peter's obviously done a great job of putting it online in the first place, and I wanted to do other stuff. But I might do that in the future. I can't wait for Peter Elston's new analysis of the infant intake overlaid with Lucy's work schedule. Yeah, that should be very interesting. We can look forward to that. Moritz's appearance on Loose Women was truly ridiculous. I regret to inform you that I haven't seen that, but I don't. I'm not here to bash Judith. Rather, I think she's significantly more conscientious than that other journalist who I think she might have been in court, but I'm not sure if we'd established that yet or not. I think Judith. I'm not. I don't want to be too critical of her. Obviously, I have been where I think it's justified, but I can't comment about Loose Women because I haven't seen it. I think I need stronger glasses. I can barely read the comments. Well, I'm afraid the day is rapidly approaching, i.e., I need them now, where I get reading glasses because my eyes are gone. Luckily, a computer screen I can still see absolutely fine. It's anything in the dark or that's close to me. Like if I'm cooking and there's instructions on the packet, like cooking something from multiple ingredients in failing light takes me forever because I have to keep holding. If I don't know what to do with it, I have to hold it next to the window. And so, yeah, I'm afraid glasses are coming for me, which will be devastating for everyone, I'm sure. But I know how you feel. Happens to the best of us. Happens to everyone. Everyone's eyes fail. It's not like your eyes are not going to fail at some point. Moritz appears to be extensively absurd on most days, possibly. Svelina Dimitrova's in, she was brilliant. I agree. Is there a link to read the emails, please? So if someone could put the link in the chat for the Peter Elston, Dewi Evans emails, that would be very much appreciated. Hi, Chris. Why do you keep scratching your ears and nose? It's more my nose. It's because I actually discussed this the other week. It's partly because of chronic congestion, and also I think it's partly self-consciousness from the fact that I can see myself all the time. Like I can just see myself now. That's why I'm always looking to the right. And it's just very strange having a video of yourself there for 3 hours, and there's nothing you can do about it as far as I can see. And that just I think possibly that makes me self-conscious and I scratch my nose. And maybe it's just a general mannerism as well. So it's probably those would be the reasons. Netflix Letby doc is 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb, sums it. Oh, really? And I think that's generous. Don't you? 5 out of 5.5, I think, is generous. Hi to JIJI, I think it is. Hi, hope you're well. Hi to Pat Gurney. Sorry, late to live. I've been bothering Jenny, football in the background. So for anyone who's interested, it's Liverpool 1, Galatasaray 0, Salas missed a penalty. Tottenham are actually beating Atletico Madrid 1-0, but they've still got some work to do. Yeah. I wonder if this 16-year-old kid's playing for Bayern Munich in goal. No, he's not. There's some rumour they were going to have to play a 16-year-old, but he's not. Lucy Letby is innocent, and reason the police stopped investigating is that once they saw these notes, they saw a confession. Yeah, maybe that's true. But it seems to me that they'd already stopped investigating well before that. So I certainly think that was a turning point for them psychologically. But I think they'd already made their mind up by then anyway, and they'd already. I don't think they ever investigated, truth be told. But I think what you're saying is essentially true. Svelana's issue was a crescendo finale, superb human being. I agree. I mean, I said in the comments, the second one, that she's a hero, and she speaks so well. She's so articulate and good with words, which really helps, of course. Let's go a bit down. What do you mean it's going to change your life? Well, I guess that I'm already known publicly, and I guess I'm going to be known a lot more publicly, which was not part of my plan in life, because essentially I'm quite introverted and was perfectly happy being anonymous and would never seek any form of notoriety. But when I began doing this, I didn't expect to go on YouTube. That was unplanned. But I knew if I was going to do a book, I wanted to make it successful and prominent. And if that was going to happen, I would become, a minor public figure. I don't want to exaggerate, but people will know who I am, and I won't be able to be completely anonymous ever again, probably. So that's not a big, I just decided you need to do whatever needs to be done. Just get on with it. So that's what I'm doing. Dimitrova has surrendered a lot of personal and professional capital to speak up about this case. She can't be commended enough. I agree completely. I love Dr. Dimitrova's answer to who benefits from Lucy being in jail, and she replied, everyone. Yeah, and I think that's the truth, isn't it? Everyone benefits apart from Lucy and people that care about justice, which is none of the people that don't benefit. So yeah, it's absolutely true. The legal system is the gift that keeps on giving for those within it. Absolutely. Are you talking about the time difference between the mum's phone record and the chart? It's simply the way the phone company records time. Yeah, I think that's what the person was talking about, but hopefully they'll update later on. So it was Charlie. Yeah. So I have discussed this in a previous video. I don't want to go over this in too much depth again, but basically the parent is wrong. Firstly, the parent is wrong, and secondly, the series of events for Child E just don't. The prosecution series of events don't make any sense. And then on top of that, it's just very obviously a naturally occurring gastrointestinal bleed, hemorrhaging, as in my book you will see several neonatal people discuss. It just very obviously is. It can't possibly be anything else. The idea that Lucy Letby's used a tool to create this is total rubbish. It's just absolute fabrication. It's not supported by any evidence at all. It's just pulled out of the ether. So really, to be perfectly honest, the parents' eyewitness account is meaningless, but it's also wrong. So let's go a bit further down. As a union rep myself, are you interested in how unions like the RCN and the wider trade union movement haven't got involved more at an anti-victimization, workplace bullying level? So I did discuss this recently, didn't I, with Viv? And I've given my view on this previously. I think any organization, and particularly big organizations, and a union is a relatively big organization, excuse me. Any relatively big organization has an inbuilt self-preservation. We all do as organic organisms. Self-preservation is part of our basic programming, and there could be internally a tendency to think, right, well, we won't get involved with this because if we're wrong and we really back this nurse, we're going to look terrible. So I'm sure that was their instinct. As to whether or not that's right, I don't think it is right. But obviously, I wish the union had backed her. I think the union should have backed her in principle, but in practice, I can somewhat sympathise with their position, which is if they go all guns blazing supporting Lucy and then she's convicted, which of course she was, they look pretty bad. That's not what should happen ideally, of course, but I can kind of understand it. Let's go a bit further down. When do you think we'll get the Thirlwell report? It's very hard to say, but I did notice the other day there was some government, this maternity thing with Wes Streeting, they referenced the Thirlwell recommendations. So that means they've either seen them already, or alternatively, Thirlwell has told them we're going to publish the recommendations. So we may get the recommendation soon, we may get the report soon, or we may not. I mean, I've had to write in my book, at the time of writing, the Thirlwell inquiry has not reported its recommendations. And we're just reviewing that right up to the day we print it. And we might have to print it that way, and it may come out between the printing date and the publication date. That's the risk of a book. There's nothing you can do about it. I just cannot make a prediction because they're in such a difficult position now. It's impossible to predict what Thirlwell will do and what Thirlwell will say. There is nothing legitimate they can say because they've been backed into a corner. I've no idea what they're going to do. I'm not sure the justice system is even embarrassed about, let alone feels threatened by miscarriage of justice. There will always be a reason they can come up with to get it off the hook. I think you're absolutely right. I think they know they're very powerful and very prominent people in society, and they know they're basically untouchable. The justice system is basically untouchable. It's been done this way for a long time. The judiciary is very powerful. And they know there's no state desire to change anything. So I think you're absolutely correct. It's been said on Lucy Letby Road to Freedom that Mark MacDonald has confirmed that CCRC now have all the reports and he has no more to deliver. Are you able to confirm? That is my understanding. I haven't confirmed this with Mark directly, but that is my understanding. So it's 31 reports, is it not, I believe? Which is pretty extraordinary. I mean, this is definitely in this country, it's the strongest weight of scientific and medical evidence that's ever been assembled for a court case, easily. And I suggest it could be the most weightiest submission by defence in global history. It's hard to say. There's a lot of countries out there, but there can't have been many. There can't be many applications where there's 31 experts, 14 experts of neonatal experts, 31 reports, thousands of pages. They're all like 100 pages and stuff. So, even the insulin one, I think is the smallest one, and I think even those are like 80 pages and stuff. So, it's incredible. Had Lucy simply walked, would there have miraculously been no murders? Absolutely. It all would have died. It would have gone away. I think even if she'd left the hospital, even if she just said, you know what, nursing's not all it's cracked up to be, I think I'll go and get a job in Subway instead, probably would have disappeared. They probably wouldn't have taken any further action on her at all because they would have realised the risk and they would have thought, oh, well, she's gone now. Never mind. We've got rid of the problem. But if she'd have gone for constructive dismissal, it definitely would have drifted away, in my opinion. All cases like this fall eventually to a person making a fully example time schedule. Yeah, I don't quite understand that, actually. All cases like this fall eventually to a person making a fully example time schedule, Lucy level travel in those days. Sorry, I don't understand that comment. You have to explain that later for me. Do you feel that her co-workers would have defended her, but no, they would have lost their job? Well, her co-workers did defend her during the grievance. So if there's a constructive dismissal, I'm not privy to the whole process. But I think if called upon, they would have defended her. But I don't think they would necessarily have been called upon. I think for a constructive dismissal, it would have been very much her against the consultants or her against the hospital. But I think she would have won. I think it would be inconceivable the hospital could have fended that off. By the union not having Lucy's back, were they protecting themselves? Absolutely. It's just a basic act of self-preservation, as I just described. Do you ever use AI like Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT for any research or for making content for good visuals? If you see anything that's been drawn, if you see a picture, that wasn't drawn by me. I can tell you that for nothing. So that's the first thing. I mean, I can draw a stick man. That's about my level. I mean, I would be like top of the class for English and bottom for art. I was abysmal at anything practical. I've told the story about woodwork in the past. Hopeless, but luckily I'm fairly good at intellectual things. So any visuals, any good visuals were not done by me, or I've pilfered them from somewhere else. ChatGPT, I don't use Gemini or Claude at all. I use ChatGPT sometimes for research. It's great for finding a document. If you want to find a document, it's better than Google. You'll just find it, even if it's really obscure. And I use it sometimes to show things. ChatGPT is great for stuff where you already know the answer. Sometimes what I found is I'll give it like a research project to do, and I don't know if you've used it, but you can put it on deep research and give it minutes to do, and then it comes back and it's absolute rubbish, which is quite annoying. But I wouldn't trust it for, if I didn't know the answer to a question, I would never trust it to give me the answer, but I would trust it to say, look, find me some sources and I'll go away and look it up and work it out myself. That's where it's really strong, really strong. And I definitely, all the transcripts that are videos, quite a few transcripts are done by AI, but it's not by any of those platforms. It's by Otter. And there are so many little tasks that you can now give to an AI platform and it will do it. And it's like some laborious task that you really don't want to do. And it will do it very accurately in a time frame that you could never imitate yourself. So I tend to use it for stuff like that. And I hated AI when it came out, because as a writer, the last thing you want is something that can write to a very good level very quickly. But now that eventually I just realized, well, it's not going to go away, is it? So you've got to make sure you understand these platforms. So I have taken quite a bit of time to use them, and they're definitely useful. They definitely have their uses. They're very much a double-edged sword, of course, and they have weaknesses and they have negative connotations for the human race in some respects. But I do use them in some respects. But I must say that my book, I didn't use AI at all, because I'd never used AI at all, because I hated AI and refused to use it. So my book there's not been even any AI research. It's all my research. And since I've started the channel, I've realized you need to accept that AI exists and see what it can do. And It can certainly draw better than me, I'll tell you that for nothing. Would the union step away once it becomes a criminal matter? So there's always the risk that will occur for reputational reasons. In principle, it shouldn't happen. In principle, the union should give support to their member, but in practice, that's not necessarily how big organisations work. Will J-Ram ever be arrested for perjury? I doubt it, because perjury is very hard to prove, and Cheshire Police will make no effort to investigate it. So, but once Lucy is exonerated, there's more of a possibility, but I still doubt that he would be arrested for perjury even in those circumstances. But he will come under scrutiny. I was deeply moved by the very compelling two-part interview with Drs. Folane and Dimitrova. Highly recommended. Yeah, it was very moving to see how saddened she was by the whole thing. Of course, she has an enormous experience. So, yeah, very sad, but we've just got to keep fighting and try and improve the situation. Let's go a little bit further down. Do you think Lucy Letby will ever get out of prison? Yes, I think she will inevitably be exonerated. I think it's more a case of when rather than if. I think it's our responsibility to try to ensure that sooner rather than later. I think her exoneration is inevitable. Do you ever have time to play chess? I thought you said, do you play chess? I have a lot less time than I used to, and I play a lot less games. I've been trying to play one game a day. The first thing that I wake up in the morning. It's like an encouragement to me to do, just to do something nice for myself. So the other thing is I make nice food for myself. I've been putting a few pounds. Still slim, I suppose. I know most people would say I'm slim, but since I've been doing Lucy's case, I put on a few pounds because food's like my treat for myself. And I learned to cook over the last few years. And once I learned to bake a cake, that was very dangerous. But yeah, I do still play, and I still play okay. I've been playing quite well. My ratings stood up. I just play like one rapid game, 10-minute games, and yeah, still enjoy it. Viv Blondick in recent interview said the union should have provided Lucy with one of their solicitors when she was being interviewed by the police. So that's a good example of something they could have done. Whether that would have helped her, we don't know. But I think most people will agree that the solicitor that was involved in the court case, was involved in the police interviews, was not great and should have helped her more. I think most people would agree with that. So Ruth is saying Lucy will get out of prison. I don't think it will take long. I hope so, Ruth. But I mean, all I can say is I'll do everything that I can to help, because I obviously believe this is a miscarriage of justice. I wrote to Lucy Letby this Christmas, but the card was returned. Are people still writing to her? I've kept going, but I do wonder sometimes if I'm alone. Well, you're definitely not alone, because loads of people are writing to her, and she does receive cards. If someone knows the process for writing to Lucy, could you put it in the chat, please? I never know what it is, and I never remember what it is because I haven't written to her. I definitely don't think it's pointless, but you have to follow the protocol, otherwise your card does get returned, and that's why your card was returned, unfortunately. I know it's helping Lucy. Let's go a bit further down. Elizabeth Morgan, I don't think she was even a children's nurse. I think she may have been a children's nurse. I wouldn't like to say, but she wasn't a specialist for sure. Can you envisage the convictions being quashed or a jury trial acquitting her? There's problems with both, as legal establishment may not overrule themselves and juries find medical arguments complex. Yes. So this is a really difficult question to answer, because it's so hard to know whether the CPS would go for a retrial. So a retrial is potentially very embarrassing for the CPS, because I can't see it being anything else other than an annihilation, given the number of experts that Lucy will be able to call upon. And it's going to be extremely difficult for the CPS to get experts. they may not be able to get one expert. On the other hand, it's going to be embarrassing for them if they don't even contest the case. So under those circumstances, there could be a retrial. Mark McDonald says that the prosecution will definitely ask for a retrial. So that would determine that immediately. And he says he doesn't think the case will be quashed. But there's obviously a possibility the case will be quashed. Another factor is there may be a kind of feeling that there's a public requirement for this case to be retried so the public can hear what has happened and not just say, right, we've convicted this person of child murder, now we will exonerate her without even a process or a public process. So I really can't predict what's going to happen, but I do think she will be acquitted and exonerated if there is a retrial. In terms of the convictions being quashed, it's really hard to say whether or not that would happen, but we'll just have to wait and see. Their job is to prosecute, true, but surely it's not to implicate the innocent. There should be some consequences. The goal should always be the truth. Unfortunately, in an adversarial system, it is not. It is to prosecute. It is to win. So in an ideal world, what you're saying is absolutely true, but unfortunately, the job of the prosecution is to prosecute. And the goal is not the truth. Um, 2 weeks before the trial started, Lucy was moved prison without her meds. Every step of the way has been awful, designed to break a person. Yeah, it's terrible what happened, and there's more stuff in my book that's not been released yet about something that happened to Lucy that no one knows about yet, which is not related to the court process, but it's in the first chapter, so you'll find out about it pretty soon, as soon as it comes out, which I know is still a while away, but for me, it's passing really quickly. I'm sure maybe it's dragging for some of you a bit, but I've been very busy, so it's passing pretty quickly. Is the chance of Lucy being set free in 2026 greater than 92%? In my view, no, because I don't think she will be set free this year. I think it will take a little while. Hopefully next year is feasible, but it's so hard to make predictions. We just don't know what's going to happen. We just all need to do whatever we can. And I've done what I can, and you guys are doing what you can. We just need to keep doing it. Thank you for all that you do for justice and for us all. Thank you. That's my pleasure. Thank you for all the support. It all means nothing without support. So I'm really indebted to you guys. I really do genuinely, enormously appreciate all the support that I've received, and I'll keep going for as long as it takes, and as long as you want to support me. And when I say that, I mean after Lucy's exonerated, I will definitely be involved with this field in the future, as I mentioned, but I would like to just carry on making content, regardless of whether it's miscarriage of justice content, other legal content, I might like to do little documentaries on other topics. So as long as people want to watch it, I'll make it, Good morning from Brisbane, Chris. Nice to see you here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all your hard work on the channel. Do you know if Lucy's defence is raising money for her? Apologise if this has been addressed. I don't think they are at this point in time. I think there's a possibility this could happen in the future. Obviously, we'll do everything we can to support her if that occurs. We'll just have to wait and see. I don't know. I don't know exactly what will happen. We'll have to wait and see. I think Dewi believes that. Well, that's an interesting view. I won't read that out, but it's an interesting view. Have you had contact with Lucy's parents? So the time is coming where I will need to write to Lucy's parents. I haven't had contact with them at this point in time, but I do need to contact them. So someone said I should have my lenses replaced. I'll never need glasses. The thing is, I don't think I have time to do the operation, and I'm going to need to be able to read out of a book quite soon. So I probably will get glasses I totally understand your point of glasses being a pain, and I did initially consider surgery, and I may still have surgery. It's possible. But I think I'll probably get glasses due to no time to have an operation. But we'll have to wait and see. Have you had any contact with your hero inspiration, Chris Mullin? So I'm trying to have contact with him through my publisher. So hopefully that will happen. We'll have to wait and see. I've had perfect eyesight until age 55. Now I've had 2 cataract ops and need glasses to read. Yes, that's very normal. Once you start with glasses, there's no going back, sadly. Yeah, I know. And this is the argument for having an operation. Maybe I should give it some thought. Let's just wait and see what happens. Has the Lucy Letby discussions page been taken down on Facebook? I've been very supportive and helpful in getting your videos and podcasts on the page, but I think I've been blocked. I'm sorry, Matt, I don't know anything about this, but thank you for posting on there. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look. Maybe other people can inform. Yeah, I think there's an element of truth in what you're saying, Diana, here. So Diana says, I think Dowie knows he's wrong, but Lucy's a mere nurse, and I think thinks he's justified to say anything to protect consultants. I think that's true. I find it so weird that people have this strange loyalty to people in their profession or other doctors. I just find it so weird. But I think what you're saying is true. Can you envisage any of the parents changing their minds, which would make a huge difference, or Labour MPs supporting Lucy, not just Conservative MPs, David Davis, Jeremy Hunt? I think MPs is more likely of the two. I think it's hard for the parents because they're so emotionally invested in their current position. It'll be very difficult for them to change from that position. It could happen. But to give you an example, Kathleen Folbig's husband gave evidence against her, and he went to the grave believing that she had killed her own children, even though she was exonerated. So it's very, very difficult once you believe something. It depends on the person, but many people reliant on their belief system. Arsenal had a good game last night. They did. They're looking very, very strong. Incredible squad they've got. So it could be an amazing season for them. Morning to Anna. Hope you're well, Anna, in Australia. Hope things are going well. So someone says Spurs 1-1. So let's update the football scores. So it's Liverpool 4, Galatasaray 0. Szoboszlai, Ekitike, Gravenberch and Salah have scored. Tottenham have got a respectable 2-1 lead, but that's not going to be enough unless they get 2 goals in the last 15 minutes. Bayern Munich 4, Atalanta 0. That's a pretty horrible result for Atalanta. They're 10-1 down on aggregate. How did Lucy's predicament seemingly literally go from being exonerated by hospital management and winning a grievance against consultants to the police investigating her? So the kind of full story that's in my book, but a lot of it is just simply the consultants refused to accept the situation. They were all in on the we're going to continue to. They say explicitly, there's been a grievance procedure. We're not going to change what we're doing. That's basically the answer to the question. They just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And eventually, the executives gave in. David Brown, hi Chris. I've had a few online chats with the Lucy Letby's guilty cause the court says so brigade, and they seem quite upset with your channel. Looks like you're foremost in the angry brigade's minds. So occasionally, you've no idea how many notifications I get from people who've copied me into things that someone has said. And they must know that I've blocked them, and they must know that I don't read anything that they say. And I have in the past. The reason that I don't read anything at this point is because they don't say anything new, and they definitely don't say anything insightful. Of course, they're perfectly entitled. As I said earlier, they're perfectly entitled to say what they want about me. That's their right as human beings. I believe in total free speech, and they can say whatever they want. I really don't care. I just focus on doing my own work, and anyone and everyone else is entitled to say whatever they want. I get an enormous amount of praise. So a little bit of criticism is fine. And if they want to say horrible stuff about me or whatever, I don't know what they're saying about me. I really don't care. It really has no impact on my life. I do my work. I do interact with people on the channel when I can. Obviously, I know I've reduced that, but it was necessary. And the only rule here is that I won't accept people being abusive. People are allowed to say Lucy Letby is guilty, and you've seen the caliber of arguments that they come up with. So, it's not really a concern to me. I'm talking to doctors, professors, nurses, experts every day. I'm concerned with them. I'm not concerned what people are saying about me on the internet. And frankly, I honestly would say to those people, you really need to have a quiet word with yourselves if you're spending your time talking about me. Like, it's really not worthwhile. I mean, I'm in no way interesting. So, you really should be thinking or talking about something else. Let's just go a bit further down. I like that you have real books stacked behind you. Yeah, I mean, I love the printed book still. I know there can be environmental and ecological concerns about them, but I think there's been a lot of work done to try and ensure that's not an issue anymore. And it was important to me to have a paperback and a hardback available on day one of release, but it was also important to me to have an ebook and to have an audiobook available on day one. So we've got all 4 bases covered, and there isn't a hologram version yet. That's not possible yet. So we've covered all the bases we can. But yeah, my personal preference is for printed books always, because that's what I grew up with and that's what I love. That's how I fell in love with reading. That's how I fell in love with literature. And that's how I fell in love with writing. And that's steered my life in a certain direction that has made me very happy, to be honest. I mean, it's hard to be a 10 out of 10 for happiness when you're doing this because it's very dark. But, I have lots of good things in my life. So I don't ever get too down, and I don't ever get down at all. I'm just very focused on my work, and I feel I have a purpose in that regard. And then, I try and have some downtime doing my hobbies and looking after this 4-legged creature down there. It takes up quite a lot of my time. I've just watched your answering questions video. It must be extremely frustrating having to answer the same questions over and over again. So the confession notes so much. The thing that gets mentioned the most is handover sheets, and I've had to address that again in a forthcoming video. And it boggles my mind. It's nothing to do with the allegations, like nothing. Lucy could have had 50,000 handover sheets in her house. The fact is that the infant still died due to natural causes and medical errors on the unit. It means nothing. Nothing. That is frustrating. It's very frustrating. But it's my job to field these questions, and I try to deal with them patiently. But I just cannot understand why people can't see, oh, but Lucy, you fished a paper towel out the bin, which is not even confirmed. We don't know how she had that paper towel. But it's nothing to do with the case. Nothing. It's just unbelievable. But, I've just got to keep on dealing with it as patiently as I can. I'm glad I saw some criticisms of the Netflix documentary before I watched it. I'm still glad I watched it, though. The danger is those who only see it in isolation. So the good thing is it's brought a lot of people into the fold, and that just makes the audience bigger and for the truth. And when they see the truth, it's very difficult to remain. I think at this point to look through all the evidence and then say objectively, I still believe Lucy is guilty beyond reasonable doubt. I don't see how anyone could possibly think that. You need to really sit down in a darkened room and have some serious, have a conversation with yourself about your life. Reasonable doubt for a case like such as this, reasonable doubt should be like 5%. I mean, to say that there's less than 5% doubt in this case is just staggering. Hi, Simone. Hope you're well. Did I see the Lucy article? Yes, I did. And I think your description, classic crap, is a good description, an accurate description. She's had the opportunity. I didn't used to be too hard on her when I started because she's had the opportunity to change her mind, and she's not going to, and she's not going to be objective. So, fair enough. It's embarrassing, but there you go. I can't see Thirlwell giving anything before the Court of Appeal. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to make such predictions, but logically speaking, what you're saying is true, but logic can go out the window with these cases. It's just you just don't know. You just don't know what they're going to do. Objectively, they should never have begun the inquiry in the first place. So logic may play no part in what Thirlwell does next. We'll just have to wait and see. Why did unions campaign for the Guildford Guildford Maguire 7, Birmingham 6 release, but they haven't for Lucy? I would imagine, I don't know whether what you're saying is true. I'll accept for the sake of argument that it is. But if that is the case, it's a less sensitive subject. As soon as you get babies involved, it's enormously emotive immediately, and a nurse as well. So I think that basically is the reason. It just is too emotive and too emotional for the union to get involved. But I'm just surmising there. I don't know for certain, but I'd imagine that is the most likely explanation. What do you think Lucy's life will be like when she's released? It's sad to think that she probably will have to take on a new identity and always be looking over her shoulder. Yeah, that is awful. I don't know. It's very hard for me to say. It's certainly possible for her to recover and have purpose and lead a good life. I mean, Amanda Knox is Kathleen Folberg are evidence of that. Sally Clark is the darker side of the possibilities. Hopefully, Lucy can. I mean, Lucy must feel that the level of public support must be enormous for Lucy. I mean, the first time when Mark said to her, "I believe that you're innocent," and she cried, that must have been, the first time she'd heard it. And now she's heard it from thousands. She knows there's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, eventually maybe millions. Maybe there's millions now. That must be good for a long-term psychological well-being, I would hope, just the level of support. But I don't think we can confidently state what Lucy's life will be like when she's released. Could you just bear with me 1 second? I'll be back in 1 sec. Sorry about that. It's getting a little bit cold. The thing is, I have to have the door wide open here because Kiko sulks. If Keeks can't do a neighbourhood watch over the rest of the estate, she doesn't really like it. Let's just go a little bit further down. So there's a little bit of advice in the chat there about writing to Lucy. So if you want to do that, just keep an eye on the chat because I've asked for people to give the advice for correspondence. It's not something that I've done, so I don't know. That meeting with Jairam and Brer in the other one, have the contents been revealed? I think if it's not in the Thirlwell inquiry, then no. If it is in the Thirlwell inquiry, then yes. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, but that's the answer to any question related to meetings. In Pete Ralston's excellent latest video, he mentions that the Court of Appeal need to consider that the roster chart being shown to the jury was a procedural error. What are your thoughts on this? Well, I haven't seen the full comments, firstly. I do need to catch up with this video. I meant to watch it, but I haven't had time. I don't know whether it is or not, but I know that Peter will have researched this thoroughly, and if he says that it is, then it will have credibility as an argument. I think, yeah, I can't actually comment on that because I don't know. I'd have to watch the video, and I definitely think it was obviously an error of science and an error of evidence. Whether it was an error of procedure, I don't know. I really couldn't say, but I'd be interested to see what his thoughts were. But if he says that it is, then it won't be for no reason. It will be for good reason. Is this case harder to acquit than the Lucy de Burke case, as each allegation relies on a different varying hypothesis rather than simply one overriding explanation? Maybe. That should be a strength of the defense, for the defense. Ultimately, once you have enough neonatal power in the case, the problem is getting that in the first place. I think, but the thing is now, if there's a retrial, the defense will say child C's a bowel obstruction, child D's delay of antibiotics, pneumonia, infection, respiratory distress, child E's a gastrointestinal hemorrhage. It's a joke to say child G is milk. It'd be interesting to see if they put the cases in where Lucy was not found guilty, like child H, child J, and child Q. Like child K, there's no evidence at all, and tubes fall out all the time. Child O's due to medical problems. Child F showing a clear pattern of hypoglycemia, etc. So I think it's not so much a case of the way Ben Myers ran the case, he was forced to disprove and discredit the prosecution, whereas in a retrial and in the Court of Appeal, it's more that they can give much more compelling medical explanations with much stronger evidence, and that's what they need to do. Why did Lucy Letby not come up from the cells to hear the verdict, and why did the judge accuse her of having no remorse, bordering on sadism, when she arguably demonstrably conserves the babies? Well, I think the reason she didn't come up from the cells was because she was distraught and could gain nothing. Whatever she did when she came up to hear the verdict, she's on a hiding to nothing, and she knows that she's an intelligent person. In terms of the judge accusing her of having no remorse, judges make these kind of statements all the time. I don't know. I don't know what the kind of guidelines are for judges in making these statements, but I can't really comment on that too much because I don't know enough about the process, and I could give my opinion, but it would be not very favourable. The judge is entitled to comment as he sees fit. If he has been told Lucy Letby is guilty, he's not allowed to say, "Well, I think you're all wrong." He just has to reflect on that how he sees fit. So that's all I can say about it. Other legal cases, I have one for you, Chris. Well, when the time comes, I did mention recently. I think it was in one of these live streams, but if it wasn't, it may have been in another video. When this goes to the Court of Appeal, which I believe is inevitable, I'm going to have to change tack with regard to content that I make, because I don't know. I don't know that I can make more on the Lucy's case because I'll be risking contempt of court, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to damage Lucy's case, obviously. So I'll probably have to do stuff that is not directly related to the Lucy Letby case. So when at that time, we'll have one of these live streams, maybe, or I'll reach out for your support and assistance and guidance, and we'll work it out together what I'm going to do. Obviously, I've got some ideas myself, but that's when I really need the help of the community. And I'll try and do whatever I can to keep things going and make things interesting, make interesting content for you. Chris, hi, and thank you for your wonderful work. There's no problem. Thanks for being here. I'm stuck on this point. Why did Breary and Jairam fixate on Lucy? Why did they go to the police? It was risk for them, endless medical negligence. Now, I myself have tried to understand this for a long time, and I don't think I'll ever understand it. My question, and the thing I always wondered, was why were they so fixated on Lucy so quickly, and why did they take this enormous risk? And I still don't have a really good answer to that question. I've tried to answer it in the book, And there are numerous other theories. And I could make a list of 20 different possible reasons. And also there's a spectrum of what people believe as to whether they targeted her or didn't target her, etc., etc. I ultimately cannot answer your question, and the only people who can answer that is Brewer and Jairam, and even they might not truly know. It can just be a cognitive bias and confirmation bias that they engaged in, and it got out of control, and they may not be able to give you a good answer as to why they did that. They may say something to you like, we really genuinely believe we were doing the right thing, and we really genuinely believed that these deaths were inexplicable. But even if they said that, we'd never know if they were telling the truth. So I just cannot say. I think it's the most difficult aspect of this to answer. And I will never have a satisfactory answer unless Brewer and Jairam just came clean and said we did this for this reason. But even then, we'll never know for sure, I don't think. Are there any planned documentaries or updates on the Lucy Letby case? Not as far as I know with regard to documentaries. Just bear with me 1 second. So I hoped that my book could help open the floodgates for another documentary. The problem is that the timescale, we don't know what's going to happen. It may be impossible in the timescale left for a documentary to be made. I mean, they can't just knock one out in 10 weeks. It takes a year and a half. So I'm not sure whether there will be any more documentaries. Obviously, the book's coming up. There's going to be some new stories, as we mentioned earlier. There's always going to be new stuff coming out, always, until Lucy's exonerated. Don't worry about that. There's more stuff also, but bear in mind, I can't tell you about the stuff I already can't tell you about. Then there's other stuff that I can't tell you about. So bear in mind that there's stuff coming. I promise you. Pascal Jones' CPS interview with ITV was reprehensible. Did she have anything to do with the dropping of Jane Hutton? I suspect she did. Any thoughts? I can't speculate on that, but it would be surprising if she didn't. That's all I can say. Anything else is legally suspect for me to say. So a lot of people saying the God complex, and that can be a contributing factor, of course. Another equal thing is you're talking about the consultants taking massive risk and stuff, and I agree, but they may think we're bulletproof, no one can touch us, whatever happens, and they might be right, and that might not be the case, but this is certainly feasible. So someone's written the prison address in here, so you need to follow this. Pete Matt, if you want to write to Lucy, Pete Malley's written in the chat, 9:33 p.m. exactly what you need to do. So look at that. What is your prediction for Arsenal versus Manchester City in the Carabao Cup final? Well, it's a difficult game to call because it's the two best teams in the country. You'd have to say Arsenal are favourites given the fact they're in better form. And I don't think Manchester City, well, I know they're not the force that they were. They're not as good as they were a few years ago. They don't have the same calibre of players. I think a big problem for Manchester City has been Haaland has dried up. And I say the reason for that is they're not creating enough chances, because I was looking at his record for Norway recently, and it's insane. He scored 17 goals in the last 9 games for Norway and 12 goals in the last 4 games. So I think if they make chances for Haaland will score and they'll have a good chance of winning. But it's basically the best striker up against the best defence. So the game, I think that will decide the game. If City make chances for Haaland, he'll probably score. And if they don't, Arsenal will win. And they'll probably win and get a clean sheet. I don't think it will necessarily be a particularly entertaining game, because I think Arsenal are a tough side to play against. And City will probably try and keep possession and stop Arsenal from playing on the break against them. But I think Arsenal will win because they're the better team with a better squad, and they've got more options off the bench. But I'd say it's only 60-40 or 65-35 for Arsenal. I think City have certainly got a chance, but I think they need to score first. If they think they went a goal down, it'd be very hard for them. Like anybody of our age, you started to sound a bit like James Alexander Gordon, if you read the football scores. I mean, that's a great job to do, isn't it? I would like to do more of that. So maybe I'll read out the full-time scores in the style of James Alexander Gordon. So there's a bit of stuff here about correspondence with Lucy. When all this is over, Chris, it'd be great to have a books discussion. Yeah, someone suggested that the other week, that I could discuss books that I'd enjoyed and that I was passionate about, and explain why they influenced me, and then I can encourage you guys to do the same. That'd be really cool. I'd love to do that. That'd be a lovely thing to do. That would be something that we could do when the appeal court is waiting to hear Lucy's case. Can you read out your book collection for a minute for one shelf behind you, or pick some favourites out? Okay, so I'll read out a few from the top shelf. So let's read from this shelf. I think it's my favourite shelf. So this is the Magus by John Fowles. All Things Betray Thee by Gwyn Thomas. This is a really bad book by Chris Hargreaves. He used to play for the football team that I used to support. Anne Tyler, back when we were growing up, she's a very good writer. I should put the microphone here so you can actually hear me. David Bone, Wholeness of the Implicate Order. That's Man and Boy by Tony Parsons. Anne Tyler, The Accidental Tourist. Anne Tyler is a really good, she's highly recommended literary writer by Nick Hornby. She writes kind of middle of the road stuff, but she's a very shrewd fiction writer. That's my favourite novel, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. Bill Bryson, Notes from a Big Country. Jean-Paul Sartre and Nausea. David Lodge Thinks. Saul Bellow, Humboldt's Gifts. Bernard Shaw, can't read the whole title because I'm blind. The Interpretation of Dreams by Freud. George Orwell wrote to Wigan Pier. André Gide, The Immoralist. The Plague by Albert Camus. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Down Out in Paris and London by George Orwell. Keep the Aspidistra Flying by George Orwell. Homage to Catalonia by George Orwell. You can probably tell I'm a fan of George Orwell, as I mentioned in previous weeks. Essential Tales of Chekhov. Beautiful Team, that's about the Brazilian national team from 1970. The Collector by John Fowles. My Idea of Fun by Will Self. You should read Great Apes by Will Self. It's a great novel. New Feminism by Natasha Walter. The Fermata by Nicholson Baker. And I'm sure that's enough. So quite a lot of fiction there, but I've read a lot of non-fiction books as well. But like fiction was my first love, I guess. So I hope that was interesting. Let's go a little bit further down. Was Brewery in danger of both GMC complaints and being charged with gross negligence manslaughter? Possibly. I'm not sure he realised that. It's so difficult to know what went through their minds, why they did what they did, what was going on in the hospital, why they didn't work out their own mistakes. You know, did they not work out their own mistakes because they were biased? Did they not work out their own mistakes because of a lack of insight? Did they not work out their own mistakes because they knew they faced massive problems, so they tried to deflect attention away from that? We just don't know. It could be any number of explanations. It's so difficult to say. Could Lucy have a case against Cheshire Police for breach of confidentiality? No. Unfortunately, the police can just do whatever they want. Basically, if they could pretty much just come around and burn your house down, and you still probably wouldn't be able to get any. You know, I mean, you really have. It's very, very difficult to get a case against the police. They have to do something extraordinarily bad. I think the most telling thing is she never thought these notes would be read out, and she said she's innocent. Yeah, I agree completely, and she never destroyed evidence. Absolutely, I think that's very. Very important points. How can anyone send mail to Lucy Letby when a prison number is not publicly available? Send any mail to Lucy via a solicitor. Well, as far as I know, she's getting letters. So I think you can find out her prison number. I haven't tried to do this, but I think you can find out her prison number. Breary and J-Ram should be charged with gross negligence, possibly. The prison number is not required to write to Lucy, Pete Marley says. So apparently that's the case, but I think you can find out a prison number as well. If Lucy gets a retrial, will the defence witnesses be working pro bono? I would assume so. I couldn't say for certain, but I would assume so. You mean... Yeah, I think so. In the new cases that Cheshire Police tried to bring against Letby but were refused by the CPS, what was the source of the medical evidence? Evans again? No, because I don't think Evans was involved. I mean, there wasn't real. I mean, there wasn't any really. So, because they were always going to get thrown out of court. We don't really know what the medical evidence was, and we don't really know what the source was. I think there was one other expert. Who knows what that expert said, and who knows what was in the cases? But they were never going to be successful. Some people talking about remorse. So I don't know if I made some comments about remorse, but it was about not showing remorse in prison. You can't show remorse for something you haven't done. Absolutely, and that was probably in Lucy's mind as well. She was probably thinking, why? How can I? What can I do? If I sit there and cry, people will be like, "Oh, crocodile tears." If I sit there blankly looking, whatever she's done, she's going to get hammered. So I think that's a big contributing factor. But very fair point. You can't show remorse for something you haven't done. Are there pictures in your physical books? Not in many of them. In a few of them. But most of them are novels and books without pictures. Can I have another glass of white wine? Please do. Please do. Let's go a bit further down. I should not worry about sub judice upon referral from the CCRC. If the C of A vacates convictions, that will be the end of it. The prosecution will not offer any evidence. There will be no retrial. I mean, I do tend to agree with you, William, when you say that. But also, you have to understand it's going to be unbelievably embarrassing for the Crown Prosecution Service if they can't even contest the retrial. So I don't know for sure what's going to happen. We'll just have to wait and see. But I do take your point; it's a very fair point. What is going to happen, Thirlwell, after Easter? Another delay? Will there be a final report? We don't know, but it definitely implied there's going to be a further delay. We'll just have to see. Bear in mind they're already supposed to have given us a timetable, and they still haven't given us a timetable. So they should now give us a... Who knows what's going to happen? Will Lucy's defence witnesses be working with her pro bono? Yes. Sorry, I just answered that question, didn't I? What will you do if she's not given another chance to appeal? The case is not reinvestigated, convictions is not thrown out, she's not exonerated. A very good question. All I can do is my best to keep exposing the situation. I don't have an easy answer to that question. That's where all of us that are working with this, including people that have dealt with this previously, like Stephen Phelps would be a good candidate, need to get together and decide what we're going to do. He would be very much more experienced than me. I don't have the answer. I do think it will be referred to the Court of Appeal. In terms of what would happen if Lucy's not exonerated, I really don't know, but that will be something for all of the kind of heavy hitters to decide together. Hi to DJ Darkside. It's okay you've not been following me recently. I hope you've set your music studio up correctly. Sorry I discussed football, Jeanette. I'm very apologetic. I do like to answer these questions on other subjects, just so that we, don't just relentlessly talk about Lucy Letby all the time, and show that I am actually a human being that has other interests. But I'll try not to talk about it too much. Let's go a bit further down. People who haven't committed crimes get released when wrongly imprisoned. Yeah. The panel at 30 in number are a wall of evidence greater than the component parts. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true. Have you heard of T.C. Boyle? Yes, I have. Maybe we should say it's an absolute own goal for Lucy's exoneration. Yeah. Hopefully it'll happen sooner rather than later. So someone says, my favourite book is 10 Rillington Place by Ludovic Kennedy. So I've not read that. Of course, there's so many books to read out there. You can never exhaust it in your lifetime, can you? There's so many I'd like still to read. I mean, people are always saying to me, have you read this novel? And I was like, I've read a lot, but I read widely read as I can possibly be, but there are many, 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 many books I've not read. The GMC doesn't like to investigate and prove cases against its own practitioners because it damages the reputation of the GMC, hence so many experts getting away with it. And that may be exactly what happened to Hindmarsh, of course. These things can all be conveniently dropped because it's not doing any harm. So David Brown saying, I read the Fermata, Chris. It's a wild novel. It is. It is very, very interesting. I hope Lucy Letby can access good literature to help her, aid her for what may be coming. So I think that they are entitled to read. They've got a library, haven't they? And hopefully Lucy's got plenty of reading material, is all I can say. Is there any doubt that exoneration is inevitable? I guess there's a small doubt. I do think she'll be exonerated. Absolutely. I believe that it's inevitable, but that is just my belief, of course. I can't honestly say it's absolutely inevitable, but I think the case is so strong, and I've seen things recently that made me think that she will be exonerated. It's just a case of knowing when that will happen. I do think it's a case of when rather than if. We'll just have to wait and see, though. Alan Moore wrote Prometheus about this dystopia where everyone high on acid, then someone stops adding it to the water, then people realize it's a dystopian police state. Yeah. I love these types of, I love science fiction. As I've mentioned, Philip K. Dick is my favorite author. So I think these books are very interesting. To exonerate Lucy Letby would impugn the legal profession. The legal profession is too arrogant to accept that it got it wrong. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a problem, of course. Chris Hargreaves, along with the Mariners, he played for many teams and Lucy's home city team, Hereford United. He played for Torquay as well. But yeah, I support Grimsby in case people don't know. Does anyone know how Lucy's parents are doing? No, we don't. I certainly don't. I haven't had any contact with them, but I will be writing to them soon. I don't necessarily expect a response, and I don't require a response. I think they're going to be finding it very difficult, is a very obvious conclusion we could draw, but I don't know for sure. Lucy Letby is a high-risk prisoner, therefore her mail is subject to Ministry of Justice clearance, hence not every Tom, Dick and Harry can write to her. Fair enough. I've not written to Lucy myself, so I can't really comment on that, but do try to write to her if you can, because I believe she receives a lot of letters. Her defence witnesses will be paid for under public funding. So there you go. I didn't know that. This gentleman's a legal expert, so very much appreciative for that. What is Liz Hall's problem? Why can't she understand this case? So there could be numerous reasons for this. I have my personal suspicions about it, but I don't know if I should air those online. She's very obviously invested in it as well, and there can be numerous reasons for that. The first reason is that she's got a podcast and she doesn't want her podcast to be completely discredited. The second reason is, as I mentioned previously in another video, she became emotionally involved in the case. She had her child at the Cancer Chester Hospital, And once you become emotionally invested, it can be very difficult to overcome that, and reason and logic and evidence can then mean nothing to you. And there can be other reasons as well. And I suspect there are other reasons, but I can't really discuss those reasons, unfortunately. But she said she decided she was guilty after the prosecution case, before she'd even heard the defense case. So people are very strange generally. Liz Hall's a journalist. She has an employer. There are other factors at play, but I just think people are generally very strange in the way they reason things. That they can become very emotionally invested in something, and then once they're emotionally invested in it, it can then be very difficult for them to change opinion. Then when they take a public position, it can be difficult for them to change opinion. I see a lot of strange behavior on social platforms as well, and I don't really know what else to say about it other than she's dug her heels in and she's not going to change. So that's her problem. It's very strange, but we there's nothing we can do about it. So I'm actually caught with the chat nearly now. People are saying that with Lucy's exoneration is inevitable considering the level of public pressure, which obviously I hope to add to that public pressure by writing the book. And obviously I try to look at it as dispassionately as possible, but I think that it's essential once you realize how poor this prosecution has been, for awareness of that to be raised, and that is obviously an aim of the book. So, I will get. Did we actually speak on email, Mr. JK? Because I'm going to be really busy for the foreseeable future, but I'd love to speak to you as soon as I can. So please email me if I didn't. It's Lucy_Letby_analysis@mail.com. Let's just keep in touch, and I will speak to you soon. But I've just extraordinarily busy trying to balance everything. Good news that Amanda Knox is podcasting the case. This will raise awareness in the innocence community in the USA and internationally. So I completely agree. I think it's very important that Amanda Knox is podcasting the case. It's very helpful. We should be very grateful for that. Obviously, she's been through a lot, and I'm really glad that she's decided to do this. I definitely want to make it this international and try and raise awareness in America. It's obviously an extraordinary story, and Amanda's, trying to help out with that. So we should be really grateful for that. Please keep last comment here is please keep sending letters and cards and parcels to Lucy if you can. At least you might get some, and that's enough. And so she's receiving a lot of stuff. So as far as I know, you can write to her. You can write to her via Mark McDonald. And that's definitely worth doing. I'm going to stop there because I've caught up with the chat, and one of the reasons that I scratch my nose and ears as well is I get allergies, and if I talk a lot at this time of night, I start getting itchy ears and itchy nose and stuff. So I'll cut this one a little bit short. I still did 2 hours 15 minutes, so I hope that's enough for people. And I'm going to do probably another live stream before the end of the month, probably right at the end of the month. I'll try and get Jonathan to come on, and we'll try and do this idea we had of celebrating the kind of campaign to have to overturn what we believe to be this egregious miscarriage of justice. So also there's another question here that I'll just answer as well. Any more news about translations will be good for the case to go beyond English-speaking countries. We haven't discussed this any further yet. I'm actually speaking to my publisher soon. It's something we'll consider. It really is about logistics, cost. It may not be possible. I would like to do it if I can, but it has to be cost effective, of course. That is the major consideration, really. But if we can do it, we will do it, because we want as many people to get it as possible, obviously, and people that can't speak English, we'd like for them to see it. So I'll just say goodbye to. Oh, I actually meant other pictures in the physical copy of your Lucy Letby book. So not at the time of writing. There aren't any pictures at the time of writing, because I can't draw anything or do any illustrations or anything like that. I'm useless. Possibly there could be diagrams, and there's going to be a timeline that you may have seen on the screen in some of my previous videos. That's going to be on the website. There's going to be a website of the book, and there's going to be a lot of material related to the book on the website as well. I don't think there'll be a lot of pictures, if any, or illustrations, because it's a long book anyway, and we want to keep the length down as much as we can. So any of that kind of thing will go on the website, more than likely. But yeah, thank you all for the kind remarks. Thank you all for the support. Thanks for all being here. Thank you all for your comments. Kiko is not looking very energetic. Are you feeling energetic, Keeks? Are you going to come up? Should we get you something to eat? Are you hungry? You're going to come and see me? Keeks is not going to come and see me. So you're not going to get to see any Kiko tonight, I'm afraid. She's just lying in a ball. And you're tired, aren't you, babes? I know, it's sad. It's a sad story. I'll take you downstairs in a sec. Yeah. Thank you to everyone for being here. And this will be available as recording shortly. There's just a couple of things I need to do online before that happens. But yeah, thanks for support as always. And I'll speak to you all again soon.